Welcome everybody. I'll start again. Welcome everybody. Consistent with section 747A of the Local Government Act 1993 and current public health order, this meeting of Liverpool Plains Shire Council is being live streamed to Council's website. A webcast of this meeting will be published to Council's website at liverpoolplains.newsouthwales.gov.au so that it is available for viewing by members of the public. Acknowledgement of country and Council prayer. Councillor Allen.
Kapuni, Naya, Good, Nanu, Kamilarai, Nama, Piralari, Telagamaru, Narai, Telagaru, Nama, Raragay, Nalay, Duan, Karagay, Yalahadu, Naya, Kilie, Ninde, Denanu, Yanu, Wanai Kan, Yal, Mal, Ta, Falaba, Karahabo, Duan, Kagi, Garahabo, Yarada, Gabaduni. I would like to acknowledge my elders, Kamilarai elders, children of past and present, the traditional owners that we are on to this day. Let us all walk together as one on this country. Welcome you. Have a wonderful day. Lord, we ask that you watch over this council, guide us in the deliberation and decision for the betterment of all people of the Shire in Australia.
Thanks, Councillor Allen. Apologies and applications for leave of absence by councillors. We have two leave of absence from Councillor Terry Cohen from the 21st of the 9th, 22 till the 10th of the 10th, 22. Councillor Donna Lawson from the 13th of the 9th, 22 to the 28th of the 9th, 22. Councillor Paul Miles from the 18th of the 10th, 22 to the 26th of the 10th, 22 to be received and accepted. Do I have a mover? Councillor Allen, seconder, Councillor Cudmore. Anyone wishing to speak for or against those apologies? If not, I'll put the motion. Those in favour? Those against? Carried. Item 3, confirmation of minutes. Minutes of the council meeting held on the 24th of August 2022. The recommendation reads that the minutes of the council meeting held on the 24th of August 2022 be received and the recommendations therein be adopted. Do I have a mover?
So moved, Mr. Mayor.
Seconder. Councillor Wynne, did you wish to speak to it, Councillor Miles?
No, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Anyone else wishing to speak for or against the motion? If not, I'll put the motion. Those in favour? Those against? Carried. Item 3.2, minutes of the Audit, Risk and Improvement Committee meeting held on the 10th of June 2022. Recommendation reads 1, that the minutes of the Audit, Risk and Improvement Committee held on the 10th of June 2022 be received and the recommendations therein be adopted. Do I have a mover? Councillor Cudmore, seconder. Councillor Allen, did you wish to speak to it, Councillor Cudmore?
No, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Anyone else wishing to speak for or against the motion? If not, I'll put the motion. Those in favour? Those against? Carried. Item 4, disclosures of interest. Any councillor wish to disclose an interest? If not, I'll go on to item 5 or 5.1. The mayoral minute. That council receive and note the mayoral minute, and I wish to move this report on the recommendation that we move forward with the New South Wales Rural Doctors, which is item 5.2. Sorry. Okay, so I'll move that minute. Does anyone else wish to speak to that?
The minute or your report?
The minute.
No.
The council's engagement in you.
Yeah, that's the next one. Yeah. So there's no other discussion on that? No other discussion. I'll go on to item 5. I moved it. I moved it.
Yeah, I'll second it, Mr Mayor.
Seconded, councillor Miles. Those in favour? Those against? Carried. Item 5.2, again, on the Rural Doctors Network engagement. The recommendation that council engage New South Wales Rural Doctors Network at no cost to the one, collaborate with the Liverpool Plains Shire Council, Hunter New England Health and other key stakeholders to address the general practitioner shortages in the Liverpool Plains Shire. 2, consult with representatives from the local medical practices in the community of Liverpool and Plains Shire. And 3, deliver to council a strategy which will list actions to address the identified issues that will include, but not limited to, general practitioner attraction and retention strategy for the Liverpool Plains Shire, which council can utilise to advocate through state and federal members to achieve the identified outcomes. Again, I move this report. Before I do that, I'd just like to mention that I've had discussions with Rural Doctors New South Wales. Okay, well, I've moved that motion. Seconder? Those in favour? Those against? Now I'll speak to the motion in regards to where I'm up to at this stage. I've spoken with the Rural Doctors New South Wales, primarily to come down and meet with us, to form a strategy which they've been successful in gaining doctors and nurses for Gunnedah. The strategy that they will outline is purely that. It's a strategy to go forward with the information that's needed. When they come down here, if they come on board and if it's approved today, they will come down and list the amount of doctors, the amount of nurses, the whole health system that we've got, and go through it, along with the Walhallow Corporation and the doctors that Walhallow employ. Everybody's struggling for doctors. Walhallow Health is struggling for doctors and having to bring locums in. The Alora is down. I think they've got 15 residents up there at the moment that don't have a GP. Through the resignation of the doctor at the local health one, I think they're getting or resigned on the 23rd of this month. So he's already gone, and the 15 or 14 patients that are in Alora that he attended to, there's no take-up with the local health one for those patients to have another doctor. The doctors that are up there are full up and flat out. They've just got no room to take on those other patients. So therefore the patients are without a GP. So I started that negotiation with the Rural Doctors New South Wales because of their success with Gunnedah, and hopefully they can put together a strategy that when we do go to the government, we go with facts and not just hearsay, but with all the facts, and they will investigate that when they come down. If everything goes to plan today, and the meeting will go ahead on Tuesday with the General Manager and myself and Rural Doctors New South Wales. So I commend that to you guys to approve today. Thank you. No other discussion? Councillor Cudmore?
As far as a health one are different to a Hunter New England Health, as far as I know. Hunter Health one run the hospital. How do we actually, I think one of the big bugbears has been that no doctors are allowed access to the hospital. It's been a bit of a closed shop. And I think if you want to attract doctors to the area, they should have access to the facility in the hospitals, because then it would make it a lot easier for everybody. They can see their own doctor without actually seeing someone else. So it probably should be one of the main sticklers for, especially our hospital, that we need access for every doctor that works in the Shire, not just a select few.
That is one of the items that I've already discussed with Rural Doctors New South Wales. And I also did an interview this morning with the ABC and stressed that point along in that interview. So I guess, the overall strategy, that will be in the mix. as well as all the other arrangements for accommodation and everything else. But primarily with Rural Doctors New South Wales, their job is to put together a strategy that we can take with all the facts. The amount of doctors per head of population, the amount of people they serve, and the recommendation will flow on from that. But it's their job to put together, in conjunction with us, a strategy so that all those points are on the table.
Yeah.
No other discussion? Nothing. If there's no other discussion, I'll go on to item 6, inward correspondence and petitions. Neil? Item 7, executive area services report. 7.1, the recommendation that council receive and note the executive services report for August 2022. Do I have a mover? Councillor Moles, a seconder. Councillor Cudmore, did you wish to speak to it, Councillor Moles?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Just to thank the General Manager for input on the Lower North West Housing Delivery Plan and also the royalty for rejuvenation project update. It was great to get that information, so thank you very much.
Thanks, Councillor Moles. Anyone else wishing to speak for or against the motion? If not, I'll put the motion. Those in favour? Those against? Carried. Item 7.2, resolution register update for September 2022. The recommendation that Council 1 receive and note the resolution register as of 19th of September 2022, appended at Annexure A. Do I have a mover? Councillor Allen, a seconder. Councillor Cudmore, did you wish to speak to it, Councillor Allen?
No, thank you, Mayor.
Anyone else wishing to speak for or against the motion? If not, I'll put the motion. Those in favour? Those against? Carried. Item 7.3, amendment to schedule of ordinary meetings 2022. Recommendation that Council 1 amend the schedule of ordinary meetings appended at Annexure A2. A, amend the date of the ordinary meeting in December 2022 to be Wednesday, the 14th of December 2022. 2, note that the General Manager will provide public notice of the amended schedule of ordinary meetings pursuant to Section 9 and 418, bracket 3 of the Local Government Act 1993 and Clause 3.3 of the Code of Meeting Practice. Do I have a mover? Councillor Wynne, seconder. Councillor Cudmore. Did you wish to speak to it, Councillor Wynne?
No, thank you.
Anyone else wishing to speak for or against the motion? If not, I'll put the motion. Those in favour? Those against? Carried. Item 7.4, Corporate and Community Services Directorate Report for August 2022. The recommendation that Council 1 receive and note the Corporate Community Services Directorate briefing for August 2022, detailed in this report. Do I have a mover? Councillor Cudmore, a seconder. Councillor Allen, did you wish to speak to it, Councillor Cudmore?
No, thanks, Mr Mayor.
Anyone else wishing to speak for or against the motion? If not, I'll put the motion. Those in favour? Those against? Carried. Item 7.5, Library Community Hub Venue Hire Fee. The recommendation that Council 1 receive and note the report. Do I have a mover? Councillor Allen, seconder. Councillor Wynne, did you wish to speak to it, Councillor Allen?
Just to say that it's good that sometimes common sense prevails, and rather than having it sitting there like a white elephant, we're going to get a usage out of it, because it's no use of having the building sitting there not being used, utilised. So this is a good outcome for everybody in the community, especially non-for-profit organisations. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Allen. Anyone else wishing to speak for or against the motion? If not, I'll put the motion. Those in favour? Those against? Carried. Item 7.6, Request for review of the Royal Theatre venue hire fee. Recommendation that council waiver the Royal Theatre venue hire fee for the remainder of 2022 for 3 scheduled morning movies for aged and disabled community members hosted by the Quirindi Country Women's Association. 2. Advise the Quirindi Country Women's Association of its determination. We won't have to do that now because the country women are here. Do I have a mover? Councillor Allen, a seconder. Councillor Wynne, did you wish to speak to it, Councillor Allen?
Just a quick note, so this is a great initiative put together by the council in conjunction with the CWA Country Women's Association.
Thanks, Councillor Allen. Anyone else wishing to speak for or against the motion? If not, I'll put the motion. Those in favour? Those against? Carried. Item 7.7, request for a memorial plaque for Shane Hills at Quirindi Cemetery. The recommendation reads that Council 1, approve the installation of a plaque in the rotunda at Quirindi Cemetery, recognising the contribution of Shane Hills. Do I have a mover? Councillor Wynne, a seconder. Councillor Allen. Did you wish to speak to it, Councillor Wynne?
No, thank you, Mr Mayor.
Anyone else wishing to speak for or against the motion? Councillor Miles.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'd like to actually speak against the motion. As I mentioned on Monday, I believe it should be council's role to only approve or reject this application to erect this plaque. I think it should be made very clear to the public that this is either a Seawills OAM initiative or the Quirindi CWA. And this is due to the many volunteers we have and have had within our shire who have not been recognised via a plaque. I think we should be very careful how this is managed. We could be opening a can of worms and setting a precedence. I take into account that this gentleman that's being recognised has done a huge amount of work at the cemetery. Merely looking at this as a council's point of view, how the public could react to a plaque for one person with so many volunteers within the shire. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thanks, Councillor Miles. Anyone else wishing to speak for or against the motion? Councillor Wynne.
Is it on? Well, I think it should be awarded because he was a disabled person and that was his bunny over there. And he was over there all the time looking after it. And now the poor man's deceased. Surely we can have a tiny little plaque put somewhere to recognise that the work that this disabled man was able to do.
Thanks, Councillor Wynne. Is there anyone else wishing to speak for or against the motion? If not, I'll put the motion. Those in favour? Those against? I'll declare that carried. Item 7.8, Statement of Investments for August 2022. The recommendation that Council 1 receive and note the Statement of Investments as at the 31st of August 2022. Do I have a mover? Councillor Cudmore, a seconder. Councillor Allen, did you wish to speak to it, Councillor Cudmore?
No, thank you, Mr Mayor.
Anyone else wishing to speak for or against the motion? If not, I'll put the motion. Those in favour? Those against? Carried. Item 7.9, loan borrowing for Quirindi Water Security Project. The recommendation that Council 1 receive and note the report on the optimum loan funding strategy for council contribution to the Quirindi Water Security Project. 2, delegate authority to the Mayor, the General Manager to affix the Council's common seal and execute all required documentation pertaining to the borrowing of $8 million from the A, Commonwealth Bank of Australia with quarterly repayments of principal and interest over 30 years, or B, New South Wales Treasury Corporation with quarterly repayments of principal and interest over 20 years, or C, National Australia Bank with quarterly repayments of principal and interest over 20 years. We need to sort out the, yeah. first of all, we need to sort out which one we're going to vote for. So you've got Commonwealth Bank of Australia, New South Wales Treasury Corporation and the National Australia Bank.
Mr Mayor.
Councillor Miles.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'd like to move that we go with A, the Commonwealth Bank of Australia with quarterly repayments of principal and interest over 30 years. So I'd like to move that, and then if it's seconded, I'd like to speak to it.
Thanks, Councillor Miles. Is there a seconder for that motion?
May I speak to it now?
No.
Why is?
Oh, because we've got to have a seconder before they can speak. Councillor Cudmore. Seconded by Councillor Cudmore, moved by Councillor Miles. You wish to speak to it, Councillor Miles?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Mr Mayor, the reason I've asked that we go with 2A is the 30-year period that we'll be paying it back. As I've said in the past, we've used the funding from our water reserves, our rates for our current ratepayers, and I think the future generations should be paying for some of this as well. So it's spread over three sections of community over years. So that's why I think the 30-year period and spreading it over would be the best benefit to this council and to the ratepayers. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thanks, Councillor Miles. So the mover of... yes, sorry. Is there anyone else to speak against that motion?
Can I speak for it?
If you wish.
Would it be all right if Joanna Little gives a little bit of a heads up? It just talks about the council water fund, 11.9 million, which is the funding for this project. So out of that 11.9 million, we're going to borrow 8 million. The rest of the money comes out of the water and sewer fund, or water fund. Who's borrowing the money, council or the water fund?
Councillor Cudmore, that just needs to be directed through me.
Oh, so,
Joanne?
sorry, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor. The water fund currently has funds that are available for this project. So the council is the one that's actually managing the water fund. So it's the whole of council that would be borrowing the funds, but the funds will be coming, the additional funds will be coming from the water fund itself. Makes sense?
Through the mayor, so we're actually borrowing the money from the bank, but the water fund doesn't have anywhere near that money. So as I say, how does it work? If the water fund's got sufficient funds, why do we actually have to borrow from the bank?
Okay, so the water fund doesn't actually have sufficient funds for its activities over the next, as you can see in the long-term financial plan. So the water fund supports the whole of the water network, not just this project that we are undertaking at the present moment. So of the 11.9 million, 8 million will be coming from the borrowings, and the rest of the funds is coming out of the water funds. So at the beginning of this project, so we're already 1 year in, but at the beginning of the project, the water fund had $10 million.
Thank you.
That answered that question, Councillor Cudmore?
Yeah, can I ask for more,
You want more?
please?
Yeah.
Yeah, through the mayor, just before the meeting, I was talking to Joan about the operating result before capital, excluding interest depreciation of the 8.2 million. So that's for the whole of the council's borrowings. And the principal repayments plus borrowing costs would be roughly below the 1 million, which keeps us under the, the 10% debt service cover ratio. But how does, if the principal and interest of the 30-year quarterly repayments is 5.89 at the moment, because that's not locked in yet, is it? So, but roughly say 6%. So that's for is that principal and interest is only 6% of the 8 million, so roughly 500,000.
Yeah, he's already said that. Through me.
Yes.
Joanne?
Yeah, that's correct. So it basically means that our principal and our interest is on a reducing timeline from the start through the whole 30 years. So it gives us an indicative amount there, as you can see from the graphics, that I believe it was 158,000. No, it's a little bit less than 148,000 would be our payment that we would be required to make over the whole period of time.
Thank you.
Councillor Cardinal, that answer that?
Good, no, thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Anyone else wishing to speak for or against the motion? If not, I'll put the motion. Those in favour? Those against? Carried. Item 7.10, internally restricted funds as at the 30th of June 2022. Recommendation that Council approve the transfer of internally restricted funds as at the 30th of June 2022 as detailed in this report. Do I have a mover? Councillor Cudmore. A seconder. Councillor Wynne, did you wish to speak to Councillor Cudmore?
Yes, through the mayor, just, John, can you just give us a bit of a background? So we're approving that these funds stay as they are, like the FAG operational and the FAG roads, they're all gone, I assume they're spent, so that's why they're none for this year. The information, just can you give us a bit of about what we're actually doing? The funds are in their entirety, please.
Through the Mayor, this report too is dealing with our cash restrictions. So we have obviously I think it's about $24 million worth of cash. That is firstly restricted to our external restrictions. They are the things that they're legislated that we can't actually spend that money on in any other way. These internal restrictions here are $3.4 million. So this is of the 24 million that we do have available. And this is restricting it so that council is advising staff that these are the only way that we can spend these funds. So for instance, the information technology, just as an example, we are allocating $600,000 for the business remediation project upgrade. So that will be the amount of money that council staff can actually spend in ensuring that that project is fulfilled. So the rest of them there that you'll see, we have a plant reserve fund. So that's for the repair of maintenance and renewal of our plant and equipment. And then you have the other ones, so our employee leave entitlement, which works out to be 40% of the leave entitlement. Now, why the 40% has been chosen is because that's a couple of years of leave liability of what we would actually be paying our staff. So all of these is literally just setting aside the funds in the cash so that staff have the ability to know exactly where council would like things spent on. Sorry.
So internally restricted funds provides assurance that those purposes for which the funds have been raised are expended according to that purpose. So for example, plant and vehicle replacement, when we sell a vehicle, we put the money or the profit, if there's profit from that vehicle, into replacing the vehicles rather than putting it into a general revenue for use of something else. So it's trying to live within our means. There will always potentially be a shortage, but it is the road to living within your means. So rather than selling some of our fleet and putting that aside for something else, it's set aside so that it can only be spent on the upgrade of the fleet. So that's kind of ensuring or providing the guidance and the restrictions for staff that we don't raise money and then expend it on things other than for the purpose that council agrees for it to be spent on. Similarly with the employee leave entitlement, the 40% coverage is extremely extensive, if you like. So most councils would have about 30% and we've got 40%. So we're making sure that there are funds set aside for when we need them.
Councillor Cadman?
Through the media, but the IT program, the upgrade to that is well over 600,000, isn't it?
Joanne?
Through the Mayor, the additional funds have been provided in the current budget. So this is the funds that are carried from last financial year forward. So in the budget for the 2022-23 year, an additional $400,000 has been provided, bringing the total for the project up to $1 million.
Thank you very much.
The answer to that, Councillor Cadman?
Yes, no, thank you.
Anyone else wishing to speak for or against the motion? If not, I'll put the motion. Those in favour? Those against? Carried. Item 7.11, authorise the signing of the draft financial statements for the year ended 30th of June 2022. The recommendation that Council 1 authorise the Mayor, the Deputy Mayor and the General Manager and responsible accounting officer to sign the statements by councillors and management as required for the draft financial statements for the year ended 30th of June 2022, contained at Annexure A and Annexure B. 2. Note that the draft Liverpool Plain Shire Council financial statements for the year ended 30th of June 2022 will be referred to Council's auditor, the New South Wales Audit Office, in accordance with section 413, bracketed 1 of the Local Government Act 1993. Do I have a mover? Councillor Moles, a seconder. Councillor Cudmore, did you wish to speak to it, Councillor Moles?
Mr Mayor, just to say this is the normal process, that it goes to the auditors, then it comes back, and council will have an opportunity to ask any questions or change anything if they see fit. So this is the normal process, and I acknowledge the two councillors that are absent from this meeting had some concerns over this, but they will be back to be able to put their questions forward when it comes back from the auditors. Thanks, Mr Mayor.
Thanks, Councillor Moles. Anyone else wishing to speak for or against the motion? Councillor Cudmore?
Yeah, I'm reiterating what Councillor Moles has just said, that can we just get a brief rundown from the General Manager about how this process works, because I think for the new councillors, I think this is the way we move forward. It goes to the auditors and then comes back to us. But we're signing off on something that actually we haven't read, so I'd just like the General Manager to give our two new councillors a bit of reassurance that this is the process we have to follow.
Thanks, Councillor Cudmore. GM?
So thank you for that opportunity. So this process is in line with the process that we go through every year. So the auditors have already been in the organisation for a week and have raised issues as they do, ask further questions as they do. These statements are produced by staff, signed off by myself and the Mayor. They go to the auditors. If there are further questions about how we might have treated particular assets or any questions whatsoever, they'll come back and ask those questions again to us. One that comes to mind may be that the issues around how we're being directed to treat the RFS fleet, for example. We've made adjustments to that already because we were over-detailed in our auditing or our inclusion of those particular assets within our financial statements. Advice regarding that matter is still changing from the audit office, so these audited statements might go to the auditor and there might be a different direction that comes back from the audit office again. But this is a process where they look at the work that we've done internally, review it, make recommendations, ask further questions, then they're amended and responded to by staff, and then the final audited financial statements come back to council with any issues that the auditors have raised that we're unable to address. And that's what council signs off finally. This is just a release for them to be able to examine our financial statements. Without this, they can't do their work.
Thanks, Deanne. Councillor Cudmore?
Thank you very much.
Anyone else wishing to speak for or against the motion? If not, I'll put the motion. Those in favour? Those against? Carried. Item 7.12, Infrastructure and Environmental Services Direct Report for September 2022. The recommendation that Council 1 receive and make the Infrastructure and Environmental Services Direct Report for the month of September 2022, detailed in this report. Do I have a mover? Councillor Moles, a seconder. Councillor Cudmore, did you wish to speak to it, Councillor Moles?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Just to thank Mr Skelly for a very comprehensive report. I acknowledge that he's pretty well snowed under with all the wet weather that's going on and repairs to road networks and putting signs out, pulling them down and putting them up again, pulling them down. I mentioned the other day, and I'd just like to mention it again today, I would like to have a further report, a more comprehensive report on the Werris Creek Industrial Precinct in the near future, please, Mr Mayor. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Moles. Anyone else wishing to speak for or against the motion? If not, Councillor Cudmore.
Through the Mayor, just a question to Mr Skelly, just about the rural transfer stations. It says all works have been completed except for the provision of recycling bays and signage. And then we go to the rural landfill mediation of 4 sites. The works commence in October, expected to be completed by Christmas. But I thought we actually did the remediation while we're building the transfer stations, because you can't really, I thought one goes hand in hand. The 3 rural transfer stations, Spring Ridge, Corona, and I assume Pine Ridge, I'm not quite sure, and the 4 remediations, I'm not quite sure which they are. Can we just have a little bit of an update of where we're up to and how it's progressing, and yeah, thank you.
Thank you for Councillor Cudmore. So the remediation doesn't necessarily take place at the same time as waste transfer stations. We did do some general operational works to tidy up the landfills before we did the remediation, but we did have to get EPA approval for how we're going to remediate and cover those landfills. So we have received that now, we are proceeding with that. So the waste transfer stations are installed in a slightly separate location, so they're not built over the existing landfill area, so they can operate separately to it. With regards to the remediation, yes, we've got Pine Ridge, Coruna, Spring Ridge and Prima are the landfills that are being remediated, and also have some waste transfer stations. But the recycling centres will be, there'll be some facilities available to, it's akin to what's up at the current Prima landfill for people who come through 24 hours a day, put recyclables into those facilities, and then they'll get transported to our new material recovery facility that will be part of the new landfill contract.
So we might have a large, for steel, and it'll only be for recycling like the window types, and we won't have any facility at the rural tips for large steels, cars, whatever, wire.
There will be some facility for it, but there will be a council workshop that will be holding in October to run through exactly what services will be provided, but there will be some facility to deliver scrap steel to the landfill, to the waste transfer facilities as well.
Thank you.
Councillor Cudmore, that was it?
Thank you.
Anyone else wishing to speak for or against the motion? If not, I'll put the motion. Those in favour? Those against? Carried. Item 7.13, Willow Tree Visitor Information Centre Master Plan. Recommendation 1, that council develop a master plan for the Willow Tree Visitor Information Centre to grow and promote tourism through improved playgrounds, toilets and car parking. 2, utilise up to $80,000 from the developer contributions general fund to fund the master plan. Do I have a mover? Councillor Wynne, a seconder. Councillor Moult, did you wish to speak to it, Councillor Wynne?
No, thank you, Mr Mayor.
Did you want to speak to it, did you? GM?
So, thank you for that. There's been ongoing issues with the septic waste in that particular area, and there's been other issues raised about fencing and the children's playground and the potential for children to leave that playground. So as part of master plan, we'll look at all of those issues that have been raised by the community, particularly the safety of children, the septic waste and how we manage that. But there's also an opportunity to upgrade the visitors centre and particularly attract further funding for the project in its entirety further down the track. It's a really great opportunity. It's a showcase coming into the Shire, and it's important that we maximise that opportunity and that facility to get as many visitors going into that area. There's also a parking issue there. It's a bit ad hoc, so we will have a workshop so that everybody has an opportunity to help guide the project, but it's easier if we get a holistic approach to the planning of that particular community or Shire facility rather than doing it piecemeal, which hasn't delivered a coordinated, well thought out, planned facilities at the moment. So there'll be further opportunity to have input at the workshop, but I think it's a great opportunity to make the most of that particular area in our Shire.
Anyone wishing to speak for or against the motion? Councillor Cudmore.
Yeah, I'd like to speak against the motion. I understand that a master plan, you need a master plan of some sort to attract funding from state and federal governments, but I think that with the expertise we've got in the organisation, we're talking about a building block basically, and I think to talk about the toilets and stuff, you need a plumber, improve playgrounds. It's not a big area we're talking about, and same as parking. You park on the road, you park around the back. I don't really know why we've got to spend $80,000 of funds that could be probably better spent. I'm not against the master plan. I just think we need if we can't do that internally, it's a sad case of affairs. So I'll be voting against it. I think we really look at what's down there and try and work it out ourselves without spending $80,000 on someone to tell us exactly what we need to know, or we probably already know.
Anyone else wishing to speak for or against the motion? If not, I'll put the motion. Those in favour? Those against? I'll declare that lost. Recommendation now, Plains Fitness Refurbishment Project Update. Recommendation that Council receive and note the progress of the upgrade of the Plains Fitness Centre in accordance with the adopted recreation strategy for the following works. Do I have a mover? Councillor Allen, second. Councillor Cudmore. Did you wish to speak to it, Councillor Allen?
No, thank you, Mayor.
Anyone else wishing to speak for or against the motion? If not, I'll put the motion. Those in favour? Those against? Carried. Item 7.15, Waste Facility and Collection Truck Branding. Recommendation that Council 1 adopt the branding option 1 for Council's landfills and curbside collection truck branding. Do I have a mover? Councillor Cudmore, seconded Councillor Allen. Did you wish to speak to it, Councillor Cudmore?
No, nothing, Mr Mayor.
Anyone else wishing to speak for or against the motion? If not, I'll put the motion. Those in favour? Those against? Carried. Item 7.16, adoption of new fee for Grindai Showground Pavilion. The recommendation that Council 1, place the draft Showground Pavilion and canteen fees on public exhibition for a period of 28 days. 2, receive a further report following the conclusion of the public exhibition period, so if no submissions are received pursuant to section 404, 405 and 491 of the Local Government Act 1993, adopt the Showground Pavilion and canteen fees and incorporate in 2022-2023 schedule of fees and charges. Do I have a mover? Is there not a mover for that motion? If it's not, I'll declare that lapsed. Item 7.17, Liverpool Plain Shire Council Section 7.12 Contributions Plan Review. The recommendation that Council 1, a council workshop will be held to review the schedule of works contained within Liverpool Plain Shire Council Section 7.12 Contribution Plan 2012. 2, prepare a heavy vehicle contribution plan as per provisions of section 7.11 of the Environmental and Planning and Assessment Act 1979. Do I have a mover? Councillor Cudmore, a seconder. Councillor Allen, did you wish to speak to it, Councillor Cudmore?
No, thank you. If Mr Skelly could give us or the General Manager give us a bit of a rundown on what this involves with the heavy vehicle contribution plan, please? Or Mr Skelly?
Mr Skelly.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. The heavy vehicle contribution plan, how it works is generally you get a charge per tonne kilometre for material that's taken out. So a quarry would be a prime example of where that contribution plan might be applied to. So for every tonne of material that they carve out, they would pay a contribution to council that is based on the damage that freight would do to the road networks, and then those funds get applied to the road network across the Shire.
So how does that work? Does that work on every heavy vehicle? Say, grain trucks and all that, how does that come into it?
Mr Skelly.
Through you, Mr. So agriculture is actually exempt from these sort of contribution plans, so it's a part of a development consent condition. So where a project needs development consent, it would become a consent condition that they have to pay that fee for product that leaves the quarry or leaves the industry. It's a very common practice across councils in New South Wales and is to try and reflect the damage that those heavy industries do to the road pavement.
Sorry, through the mayor again. So what are we looking at, Nathan? Examples, please, besides our quarry. Do we pay ourselves, do we, or do we pay? How's that work?
Skelly.
So it's not just for our quarry, so we could potentially charge ourselves, however, because we do the works to go onto our road network ourselves, the plan would exempt work such as that. So it would be for private quarries that want to apply for an extraction licence and development consent for that. So the likes of the Willow Tree Quarry, the Boral Quarry at Currambubula, if new quarries were proposed similar to those ones, the condition of consent would be based on those new developments.
But not sorry, through the mayor.
Councillor Cudmore.
So anything that's up and running, it's only for new developments that come into new DKs.
Yes, that's correct. It has to be for new development applications.
Thank you. That's what I thought.
Councillor Cudmore. That's
All right, thank you very much, Mr Mayor.
Anyone else wishing to speak for or against the motion? If not, I'll put the motion. Those in favour? Those against? Carried. Item 7.18, proposal to install a cash and earn facility in Corindon. The recommendation that Council 1 approve the installation and operation of a return and earn facility at the proposed location being Longfield Oval Car Park, Corindon. Do I have a mover? If there's no mover, then I'll declare that lapsed. Item 7.19, Town Water Supply Status Update. The recommendation that Council receive and note the water supply status report. Do I have a mover?
So move.
Councillor Moles. A seconder? Councillor Allen. Do you wish to speak to it, Councillor Moles?
No, thank you, Mr Mayor.
Anyone else wishing to speak for or against the motion? If not, I'll put the motion. Those in favour? Those against? Carried. 7.20, the Queepolly Water Project Construction Report. Recommendation that Council receive and note this month's progress of the Queepolly Water Project's design and construction phases. Do I have a mover? Councillor Allen. A seconder? Councillor Moles. Did you wish to speak to it, Councillor Allen? No? Anyone else wishing to speak for or against the motion? If not, I'll put the motion. Those in favour? Those against? Carried. That's 7.19, 7.20, 7.19. We're on this. Item. We just did it. Item 7.21, DA 078/2013/3 dash proposed S4 55 bracketed 2 modification to DA 078/2013 involving subdivision of one lot into 64 lots over 6 stages. Lot 2, DP 119185685 Gamble Street, Corindon. The recommendation that Council determines development application 78/2013/3 pursuant to section 416 of the Environmental Planning and Assessment Act 1979 by the granting of consent subject to conditions as detailed in the Development Assessment Report 10-2013-78-3 in Annexure A and 2, undertake an amendment to the Liverpool Plains Development Control Plan 2012 for the Corindon East Urban Release Area. Do I have a mover? Councillor Allen, seconded Councillor Moles. Did you wish to speak to it, Councillor Allen?
Just to thank Nathan for his lengthy report on Monday, and so this is a great step forward for the Liverpool Plains Shire. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Allen. Anyone else wishing to speak for or against the motion? If not, I'll put the motion. Those in favour? Those against? Carried. Item 8, Delegates' Reports. 8.1, Delegates' Report, Audit, Risk and Improvement Committee meeting on September 2022. If someone move that report be accepted. Councillor Cudmore, a seconder. Councillor Allen, did you wish to speak to Councillor Cudmore?
No, thanks, Mr Mayor.
Anyone else wishing to speak for or against the report? If not, I'll put the motion. Those in favour? Those against? Carried. That's done, 8.1. Item 9, notices of motion, questions with notice. Nil. Confidential matters. Item 10, recommendation that Council considers the confidential report, bracketed S, listed below in a meeting closed to the public in accordance with section 10A, bracketed 2 of the Local Government Act 1993. 10.1, offers to purchase land. This matter is considered to be confidential under section 10A bracketed 2 dash bracketed C and bracketed D bracketed I of the Local Government Act, and the council is satisfied that discussion of this matter in an open meeting would on balance be contrary to the public interest, as it deals with information that would, if disclosed, confer a commercial advantage on a person with whom the council is conducting or proposes to conduct business, and commercial information of a confidential nature that would, if disclosed, prejudice the commercial position of the person who supplied it. 10.2, expression of interest, 46/2022, operation of Greenby Caravan Park. This matter is considered to be confidential under section 10A bracketed 2 dash bracketed C of the Local Government Act, and the council is satisfied that discussion of this matter in an open meeting would on balance be contrary to the public interest, as it deals with information that would, if disclosed, confer a commercial advantage on a person with whom the council is conducting or proposes to conduct business. 10.3, Mayoral Minute, General Manager, Annual Performance Review for period ending 30th of June 2022. This matter is considered to be confidential under section 10A bracketed 2 dash bracketed A of the Local Government Act, and the council is satisfied that discussion of this matter in an open meeting would on balance be contrary to the public interest, as it deals with personal matters concerning particular individuals other than councillors. Do I have a mover?
Move to go into confidential.
Move to go into confidential. So that's moved Councillor Moulds, seconded Councillor Cromwell. Those in favour? Those against? Carried.